Jerusalem is a city of 5,000 years. And those who say that it's built over its three valleys, they're absolutely correct. Ghenna, which means hell, the Tyropean, the cheesemakers, and the Kidron are the three valleys that cross the city, and its foundations were built on it. Certainly, the most dramatic is the Kidron Valley, which lies down below, sandwiched between the Temple Mount, where right now we're standing by the eastern walls of it, and the Mount of Olives, which is located east of where we are. Dominated by its cemeteries. As we can see today, that the Mount of Olives is dominated by the Jewish cemetery over there, where according to a survey, over 80,000 Jews were buried there. It is said to be that if you want to be buried over there, you better have about $400,000 to buy yourself a piece of land to be buried in. We do say everyone is dying to go to the Mount of Olives. In the valley, we do have the Christian cemeteries. By the eastern walls of the temple, we do have the Muslim cemetery. Why all these monotheistic religions are interested of being buried around the city of Jerusalem? All this has to do with the story of the end of days. It is said to be that at the end of the days, the Messiah will come and he will be sitting at the eastern gates of Jerusalem to judge all nations. Each one of these religions have the Messiah in their own ways and beliefs. We, the Christians, we believe that Jesus is going to return to the top of the Mount of Olives. Then he's going to be sitting at the eastern gates of the city of Jerusalem, the eastern gates of the temple, and from there he's going to judge all the nations. The Jews are still waiting for the coming of their Messiah, who's going to appear, cross the Kidron Valley, also establish the thrones of judgment at the eastern gates of the Temple of Jerusalem, and from there judge all nations. The Muslims just followed the track. They're waiting for the Christian Messiah, who they believe that he's going to come back and judge all the nations. That's the reason why everyone wants to be buried so close to the eastern gate of Jerusalem and to the Temple of Jerusalem. Legends, biblical traditions, scripture, a mix and a mingle of all that says, at the end of days, a golden bridge is going to extend from the Mount of Olives to the eastern gate. That's why the gate is also called the Golden Gate. That bridge is going to be as thin as a hair, as sharp as a sword. All the dead, all the people of all nations are going to be brought by angels to the Mount of Olives, and they would have to cross that bridge. The righteous will make it across. Those who are not good, they're going to fall down into the Kidron, and they're going to be washed all the way down to hell, to Gehenna. The day of the Lord is coming. It is close at hand, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and blackness. This is how the prophet Joel, in chapter 2, describes the valley, setting for the end of days. We're just walking all the way down into the Kidron Valley, or known also as the Fire Valley, and it's really getting a bit hot. The Kidron Valley have been burial grounds over here all the way since ancient times. We can trace over here burial places dating back to the first temple period and all the way down into the second temple. There are three monuments which dominate, the valley. The first one is the Mausoleum, which you can see behind me, which is mistakenly called Absalom's tomb. For sure, Absalom was not buried over here, never had the privilege to be buried over here, as he was buried in Ephraim. So who built this monument? Who built this mausoleum? To when is it dating? Most probably, the one who built it was King Herod Agrippa I, imitating his father Herod the Great, who built a similar mausoleum at the Herodian. When we look at the mausoleum, it's approximately 26 to 30 meters high. It is a monolith. That means it's a cut out of one piece of rock, except of course all the way for the upper dome of it, where the upper dome is made out of ashlar stones. The Greek elements that are very visible within the structure itself, we can see the columns, the Ionic capital above them, the opening which leads all the way down into the burial place, where within it we do find a burial ground, an arcocelia style, which means a bench and an arch, which is typical for the first century AD. And just by the opening, try to look at the decorations that we see to the left and the right of it, with the triglyph, that's the little tiny pillar cuts which we have on the facade, and in between them the square-shaped cuts with a little tiny round dot, which is known as epitomes. That's a typical Greek with some of Egyptian influence when it comes to its decorations and design. At the upper part of the dome, we can see a rope-shaped carving, which is typical Greek, leading all the way to the pillar on the top, which used to have a carving of a lotus flower, which is known today as Absalom Pillar. Interesting, the locals of Jerusalem, throughout the ages, whenever they passed by, they used to stone the tomb. Cursed is he who would rebel against his father. The second burial place that we can see is dating back all the way to the First Temple period. An inscription was found between the pillars over there, which states that this is the burial place of the priesthood family of Bnei Hazir. That's a family which is mentioned in the second book of Chronicles. Then, moving a bit further up, we can see over here another monolith, another structure which is cut out of rock. But this time, there's no one buried within it. This is just a solid stone structure, and in Hebrew they refer to it as Nefesh, which means a soul, and that is literally a monument which is built to commemorate the soul of the deceased. Most probably, this was constructed over here, or this was cut over here as a monument for the burial place of Bnei Hazir. Well, Jerusalem, it's known for its traditions and legends. They do say that this is the burial place of Zechariah the prophet. Zechariah, the son of Judaiah, which we know that he was murdered by the priest at the temple at the time of King Joash, between the altar and the Holy of the Holies. Could that have been the very same Zechariah that Jesus refers to in Matthew 23 about the prophet Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, who was murdered between the altar and the temple? Other traditions, some say that this is actually the burial place of Zechariah, the father of John the Baptist, who also, according to oral tradition, was killed at the temple by Herod's soldiers. Others do say, no, this is the burial place of Zechariah the prophet, which is the last prophet of the Old Testament, who was present at the time of Ezra and Nehemiah. Several traditions about the first monument, about the same monument, but these dominated the valley, in addition to the burial places. A month before Passover, all the burial places around Jerusalem, they used to paint them white using chalk layers. And the reason for that if a person coming up for the Feast of Passover would by accident got in touch with the burial places, that would have made him unclean. So painting it would have prevented the uncleanness of the body of the passer-by. Jesus, in Matthew 23, just some of the last teachings that he did at the temple, what is known as the 7 woes, he refers to the priesthood families and the aristocracy of the temple, and he compared them to white-washed tomb, which looks beautiful from outside, but they're corrupt from within.